You're about to hear the wildest week of my life. How I went from packing my desk in a cardboard box to watching my snake of a boss crash and burn. My boss fired me and took credit for my work. I was crushed until my intern whispered, "Check your email." The next day, he was fired. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. It would be great if you can also comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today, our special shout out goes to Andy Scott from London. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. It was a Tuesday morning, bright and crisp, the kind that makes you think nothing bad could happen. I'd been up half the night tweaking slides for the biggest project of my career, a marketing campaign for Vertex Media, the firm where I'd spent 5 years clawing my way up. This wasn't just any campaign. It was the campaign, months of brainstorming, late-night coffee runs, and sketches on napkins. I called it Silver Horizon, a bold pitch to rebrand a tech giant with a story that'd hook millions. My hand shook as I clicked through the final deck on my laptop, but I was proud. It was perfect. I walked into Victor Hensley's office at 9 a.m. sharp, my boss, the guy with the slick suits and the smile that never reached his eyes. He leaned back in his leather chair, sipping espresso, while I set up my laptop. "All right, Lila," he said, voice smooth as glass. "Let's see what you've got." I poured my heart into that pitch, every slide, every word. I told him how Silver Horizon would make Vertex the talk of the industry, how it'd land us on magazine covers. When I finished, I held my breath, waiting for something praise, a nod, anything. He just stared at me, then gave this thin little smile. "Good work," he said, like I'd handed him a grocery list. "I'll take it from here." I left his office feeling off. Not celebrated, not even relieved, just unsettled. But I shook it off. Victor was always cold. It didn't mean anything. I went back to my desk, answered emails, grabbed a sandwich. Life felt normal for about 24 hours. Then Wednesday hit like a freight train. I was halfway through a report when Victor's assistant, Claire, tapped my shoulder. "He wants to see you," she said, her face tight. My stomach dropped. I walked down that long hallway to his office, past the glass walls where my coworkers pretended not to stare. Inside, Victor didn't even look up from his desk. "Lila," he said, sliding a paper across to me, "we're letting you go. Budget cuts. Effective immediately." I froze. The room spun a little. "What?" I managed to choke out. "After the campaign?" "After everything he cut me off. I still on his stupid papers. It's business, not personal. Security's waiting to walk you out." That was it. No handshake, no goodbye, just a pink slip and a shove out the door. Packing up my desk was a blur. My hands trembled as I tossed pens, a mug, a framed photo of my cat into a cardboard box they'd shoved at me. 5 years at Vertex, 5 years of sweat and deadlines, and it ended with me clutching that box like a lifeline. My coworkers avoided my eyes, whispering behind their screens. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I just kept moving. I had to get out before I broke down. The elevator was my last stop. I stepped in, staring at the floor, when I heard quick footsteps. Jamie slipped in beside me, my intern, this quiet 22-year-old with messy hair and a knack for noticing things. They'd been with me 3 months, shadowing my every move, asking smart questions. I barely looked up, too numb to talk, but Jamie leaned close, voice low. "Check your email," they whispered. The doors slid shut before I could ask what they meant. I stumbled out into the parking lot, the February air biting my cheeks. Security hovered like I might steal a stapler, and I drove home in a daze, that cardboard box rattling in the passenger seat. Check my email. What was Jamie talking about? I figured it was a sympathy note. "Sorry you got canned. Lila, you were great." But that whisper stuck with me. It wasn't pity in their voice. It was urgent. When I got to my apartment, I dropped the box on the couch and just sat there, staring at the wall. My cat, Muffin, jumped up and purred, but even she couldn't pull me out of it. I'd been fired. Fired after handing Victor the best work of my life. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. He'd barely blinked at my pitch. Good work, and now I was out? It didn't add up. Finally, I grabbed my laptop. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't sadness. It was something else, something hot and sharp. I opened my email, scrolled past the junk, and there it was, a message from Jamie, sent an hour ago. Subject line, "You'll want to see this." No text, just two attachments. I clicked the first one, a video file, and my jaw hit the floor. It was a Zoom call, Victor, in his fancy office, pitching Silver Horizon to the executive board. My slides, my words, my voice practically echoing through his smug mouth. "This is my vision," he said, leaning into the camera. "I've been crafting it for months." The timestamp? This morning, hours after he fired me. I gripped the laptop so hard I thought I'd crack it. He stole it. He stole my work and kicked me out to take the credit. I sat there, heart pounding, as the truth sank in. Victor hadn't just fired me. He'd buried me to build himself up. And Jamie? That quiet kid with the quick whisper. They'd seen something I hadn't. I opened the second attachment, an email chain, and felt my world tilt again. But that's a story for tomorrow. Right now, I was a mess of rage and questions, and one thing was clear. This wasn't over. I was sitting on my couch, that cardboard box from Vertex still spilling pens and post-its next to me. My cat, Muffin, was curled up on the armrest, purring like nothing was wrong, but everything was wrong. I'd just watched a video, Victor, my boss, my ex-boss, pitching Silver Horizon to the board. My campaign, my words, my late nights. He sat there in his pressed suit, smirking into the camera, saying, "This is my vision. I've been crafting it for months." Months? I'd handed it to him yesterday morning, and by lunchtime today, I was out the door. The timestamp on that Zoom call burned into my brain. 10:47 a.m., Wednesday, February 25th, 2025. Hours after he fired me. I couldn't breathe right. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped it in wire. I clicked back to Jamie's email, subject line, "You'll want to see this," and stared at the second attachment. My finger hovered over it, scared of what I'd find. Jamie had risked something big to send this, but why? They were just an intern, 3 months under my wing, barely 22, always scribbling notes in that little black book of theirs. I'd liked Jamie, quiet, sharp, dependable, but this was next level. I took a deep breath and opened it. It was an email chain forwarded from Victor's account. The first one was to Claire, his assistant, dated 2 weeks ago. "Lila's close to wrapping the Horizon pitch. Once it's done, we move forward, budget cuts, her spot's the first to go." My stomach lurched. 2 weeks ago, I'd been in his office that day, showing him early drafts, thinking he was impressed. The next email was worse, to some guy named Greg in finance, sent last Friday. "She's done the heavy lifting. I'll polish it up, present it, and we're golden. No need to keep her around after." There was even a winking emoji, like it was a joke. A joke that ended with me jobless and him basking in my glory. I slammed the laptop shut and stood up, pacing my tiny living room. Muffin jumped off the couch, startled, but I couldn't stop. My mind was racing. Every late night, every skipped dinner, every time I'd pushed myself to make Silver Horizon perfect. I'd put my soul into that campaign, and Victor hadn't just fired me. He'd planned it, timed it, waited like a vulture to pick my bones clean. I wanted to smash something, scream, drive to his house, and throw that laptop through his window. But I just kept pacing, the anger boiling hotter with every step. Then my phone buzzed. Another email from Jamie popped up on the screen. No subject this time, just 4 words, "Send it to the right people." Sit tight. I stopped dead, staring at it. Sent it. To who? The board? HR? The freaking FBI? My hands were sweaty as I opened the laptop again, rereading that short note. Jamie had gone rogue, taken Victor's lies, my work, and flung it somewhere explosive. But I didn't know where, or how, or what it meant. All I knew was that this kid, this intern I'd barely noticed half the time, had my back in a way I never expected. I sank onto the couch, my head spinning. Part of me wanted to trust Jamie. They'd already uncovered more in a day than I'd seen in 5 years under Victor's thumb. But trust? After today? I didn't even trust my own shadow. What if Jamie was wrong? What if they'd sent it to the wrong people and it backfired? I pictured Victor laughing it off, spinning some story to the board while I sat here, powerless. Or worse, what if he found out I had this? Could he come after me? Sue me? ruined me more than he already had. The clock on my wall ticked past midnight, but sleep wasn't coming. I poured a glass of wine, red, cheap, the kind that stains your teeth, and sat by the window, staring at the city lights. My mind wouldn't stop. I kept replaying that Zoom call, Victor's voice, smooth and oily, claiming my work. I imagined storming into Vertex tomorrow, shoving those emails in his face, watching him squirm. Or maybe I'd leak it myself. Post it online, let the world see what a fraud he was. But Jamie said sit tight. Sit tight for what? A miracle? Revenge? I didn't know, and that not knowing was eating me alive. I grabbed a notebook and started scribbling names, dates, every detail I could remember about Silver Horizon. If Jamie was lighting a match, I'd be ready with the gasoline. I wrote down how Victor had hovered over my shoulder last month, asking questions I thought were innocent. How he'd called me team player when I stayed late, but never once thanked me. How his good work yesterday felt like a pat on the head before a guillotine dropped. The more I wrote, the clearer it got. He'd been plotting this for weeks, maybe longer. I wasn't just fired, I was erased. By 3 a.m., my eyes were burning, but I couldn't stop. The wine was gone, the notebook full. I kept seeing Jamie's face in that elevator, those quick, dark eyes, that urgent whisper. Check your email. It wasn't just a tip, it was a lifeline. And now, sit tight. I didn't know what Jamie had unleashed, but I felt it coming, like thunder rolling closer. My devastation was gone, replaced by something sharper fury, yes, but also a flicker of hope. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a fuse, waiting to ignite. I woke up Thursday morning, or, really, I just gave up pretending to sleep. The clock said 6:47 a.m., and my head throbbed from too much wine and too little rest. My notebook was still open on the coffee table, pages scribbled with every dirty trick Victor had pulled. Muffin, my cat, was sprawled across it like she owned the place. I was reaching for my phone to check Jamie's email again when it buzzed in my hand. It hadn't been shut off yet. I logged in, fingers slippery with sweat, and the screen lit up with chaos. The main channel, #General, was a flood of messages, dozens, maybe hundreds, piling up overnight. I scrolled to the top, my breath catching as I read. At 11:32 p.m., someone named Anonymous Tip posted, "Thought the board should see this." Below it, 2 links, one to the Zoom video of Victor pitching Silver Horizon as his own, the other to that email chain where he plotted to ditch me. The timestamps were brutal, Victor's smug face frozen mid-lie, my name buried in his scheme. By midnight, the board replied, "We're investigating. Stand by." Then, at 6:03 a.m., a message from CEO Intern, "Victor Hensley is no longer with Vertex Media, effective immediately." More to follow. I stared at the screen, my mouth dry. He was gone. Just like that, poof, after one night. The channel exploded after Ellen's post. "What the hell happened?" From Greg in finance. "Did anyone see this coming?" From Claire, Victor's assistant, who sounded panicked. Someone even posted a gif of a dumpster fire captioned, "Victor's career right now." I laughed out loud, a sharp, shaky sound that startled Muffin off the table. My phone started buzzing, texts from Sarah, Mike, even people I hadn't talked to in months. "Lila, did you see? Is this about your campaign? Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was too busy piecing it together. Jamie. It had to be Jamie. That anonymous tip was their doing, those files from last night, flung like grenades into the right hands. But how? When? I leaned back, my mind flashing to the past few months. Jamie, always there, hovering at the edge of meetings with that little black notebook. I'd caught them once, weeks ago, staring at Victor's office door after he'd chewed out a junior designer for no reason. "He's a jerk," Jamie muttered, so quiet I almost missed it. I'd laughed it off. Victor was a jerk, sure, but he was the boss. Now I saw it differently. Jamie wasn't just watching. They were waiting. Another memory hit me, late January, a Friday night. I was finishing Silver Horizon drafts, and Jamie stayed late too, pretending to organize files. Victor stormed in, demanding my latest slides. "Just checking progress," he'd said, but his eyes were hungry, flicking over my screen. Jamie didn't look up, but their pen scratched faster in that notebook. I thought they were doodling. Now I wondered, what had they written? What had they seen all those months, trailing me like a shadow, that I'd been too busy to notice. Back on Slack, the story unfolded. Someone leaked that Victor had tried to save himself, called Ellen at 2 a.m., spinning excuses. It was a team effort, he claimed. Then, Lila misunderstood her role. But the files were ironclad. My voice in the original pitch notes, timestamps showing I'd built it from scratch. By dawn, he was toast. I pictured him scrambling, sweat beading on that perfect hairline, and I grinned. Vindication tasted sweet, sharp, like biting into a lemon after expecting sugar. My phone kept buzzing. Sarah again. Lila, call me. This is insane. Mike, they're saying it's your campaign. You're a legend. I ignored them, scrolling Slack instead. A quiet message popped up in my DMs from Jamie, using their real account this time. Told you to sit tight. You good? My fingers froze over the keys. Good? I was a mess, relieved, furious, amazed, but yeah, I was good. I typed back, you're a genius. How'd you do it? No reply yet, but I didn't need one. Jamie's cunning was staring me in the face, and I was in awe. I stood up, pacing again, but this time it wasn't anger driving me, it was adrenaline. Victor was out, my work was mine again, and Jamie had pulled it off like some mastermind in a movie. But questions gnawed at me. How'd they get into his email? Why risk it for me? And what now would Vertex call? Would I even want to go back? The Slack chatter hinted at more. Ellen's more to follow loomed like a promise or a threat. I didn't know what was coming, but I felt it, heavy and electric in the air. I glanced at Muffin, who'd reclaimed her spot on the notebook. We're not done yet, are we? I said aloud. She blinked at me, lazy as ever, but I was wide awake now. Jamie had lit the match, and the fire was spreading. Victor's fall was just the start. I could sense it. And I'd be damned if I missed a single second of what happened next. Thursday stretched into afternoon, and I was still buzzing from the Slack chaos. My phone wouldn't quit. Texts, calls, coworkers begging for the scoop. I'd ignored most of them, but Jamie's DM from earlier sat unanswered. You good? I typed back, you're a genius. How'd you do it? And got nothing until 2 p.m., when another message popped up. Meet me at Brew Haven, 3 o'clock. I owe you a latte. Brew Haven was this cozy cafe a few blocks from Vertex, all warm wood and mismatched mugs. I didn't hesitate. I needed to see Jamie to understand the kid who'd turned my nightmare into a knockout punch. I got there early, snagging a corner table by the window. The place smelled like cinnamon and roasted beans, and I fiddled with a napkin, nerves jangling. What do you say to someone who just saved your skin? At 3:02, Jamie walked in, messy hair, that black notebook tucked under their arm, wearing a faded green hoodie like it was any other day. They spotted me, grinned, a real grin, not Victor's fake one, and slid into the chair across from me. Hey, they said, like we were just grabbing a casual coffee, not unraveling a conspiracy. The barista brought over 2 lattes, mine with extra foam, Jamie's black as night. I took a sip, letting the warmth steady me, then blurted, okay, spill it. How'd you pull this off? Jamie leaned back, sipping slow, eyes glinting like they'd been waiting for this. It's been building, they said. Victor's a leech. I've seen it before. Last fall, he took credit for Mia's Ed rollout, then reassigned her to nowhere. I figured he'd try it with you. Silver Horizon was too good, he couldn't resist. I blinked, the latte halfway to my mouth. Mia quiet, brilliant Mia who'd vanished from Vertex months ago. I'd thought she'd quit, not been pushed out. You knew? I asked, voice low. Jamie nodded. He's got a pattern, picks someone talented, milks them dry, then cuts them loose. I've been watching him since I started. Kept notes. They tapped the notebook, its edges worn soft. When he fired you Tuesday, I knew it was go time. My head spun. But the Zoom, the emails, how'd you get them? Jamie's grin turned sly. Let's just say Victor's not great with passwords. His Zoom's linked to the shared Intern account, sloppy. I logged in, saw the recording from Wednesday's board call, nabbed it. The emails. Trickier. Borrowed his laptop during lunch Monday. Claire left it unlocked while he was in a meeting. Took me 10 minutes to forward what I needed. I set my cup down hard, foam sloshing. You hacked him. Jamie shrugged, unfazed. Not really hacking, just creative access. I sent it all to the board last night. Anonymous VPN, untraceable. Figured they'd move fast. Fast. They'd torched Victor's career in hours. I stared at Jamie, this 22-year-old with a latte mustache, and felt my jaw drop. "You risked your job for me," I said, almost a whisper. "Why?" Jamie looked at me then, eyes steady, no grin this time. "Because you're the real deal, Lila. You don't just bark orders. You teach, you build something." "Victor?" "He's a suit with a smile, nothing else." I couldn't let him trash you. The words hit me like a warm wave, washing away the last of my doubt. I'd spent months mentoring Jamie, showing them pitches, tweaking their ideas, never thinking it'd come back like this. Loyalty. Real, raw loyalty. I was about to say something. Thanks, maybe, or how stunned I was, when my phone rang. Vertex's number. I froze, glancing at Jamie. "Answer it," they said, leaning forward. I did, heart pounding. It was Ellen Tran, the CEO, her voice crisp but kind. "Lila, we've made a mess of this. Victor's gone. His actions were unforgivable. Silver Horizon is yours, and we want you back. Senior strategist, 20% raise, your terms. What do you say?" I didn't answer right away. I set the phone down, speaker off, and looked out the window. Cars rolled by. People laughed. Life kept moving, but I held the reins now. Senior strategist. Higher than Victor's old spot. A raise. My campaign, my name. I could have hung up, walked away, let Vertex squirm. Silver Horizon. My campaign, alive for the world to see. The tech giant's logo spun into a silver dawn, my voiceover weaving a story of hope and grit. The crowd, clients, execs, my team, watched, silent at first, then erupting into cheers as the tagline hit. Tomorrow starts here. My words, my vision, and at the bottom of every ad, every press release, created by Lila Carter. Ellen Tran took the mic after, her silver hair catching the lights. "We owe an apology," she said, voice steady. "To Lila, who built this brilliance, and to our team, for letting a fraud dim our shine. Vertex is stronger because of her." The applause rolled over me like a wave, warm and loud. I stood there, glass in hand, letting it sink in. Rave reviews were already pouring in. Adweek called it a masterstroke. Forbes dubbed me the visionary Vertex nearly lost. My phone buzzed with notifications, but I silenced it. This moment was mine to feel, not scroll through. Victor? He'd gone quiet, real quiet. I'd checked his LinkedIn the week before, out of curiosity, not spite. His profile was a ghost town, no updates, no smug posts about leadership. Word was he'd tried pitching himself to rival firms, but the story had spread like wildfire. Video, emails, the whole messy truth. He was a pariah now, a cautionary tale whispered over coffee breaks. I didn't gloat, though. Seeing my name in lights was sweeter than watching him fade. Monday morning, I sat in my new office, the city sprawling below, a patchwork of steel and glass glinting in the sun. My desk was cluttered already, notes for the next campaign, a mug with a cat doodle from Sarah, a stack of thank you cards from coworkers. But the best part? Jamie. I'd made good on my deal with Ellen. They were my strategist now, full-time, no more intern grunt work. They'd moved into the cubicle outside my door, that black notebook still in hand, but now they had a laptop and a title to match their grit. We'd had our first real meeting that morning, brainstorming a follow-up to Silver Horizon. Jamie leaned over the table, sketching ideas, their energy sparking off mine. "What if we flip it?" they said, eyes bright. "Go darker, grit over gleam?" I grinned, jotting it down. "Love it. Let's pitch it Wednesday." Our partnership was blossoming, roots deep from that wild week. They weren't just my backup, they were my spark, pushing me like I'd pushed them. A whisper had saved me, but I'd claimed the rest. And whatever came next, I'd face it with Jamie at my side, my work in the world, and a fire that no one could snuff out. That's my story, folks. Thanks for riding this roller coaster with me. If it hit you in the feels or fired you up, hit that like button. It means the world. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. I've got more tales brewing. And drop a comment. Ever had a whisper change your life? I'd love to hear it. Share this with a friend who needs a win, and let's keep the good vibes going. See you soon.